I think I'm very good at it because I only know, for me, I'm going to be honest with you.
This is Keaton Kruger from Iowa, and you're listening to the Vance Crowe podcast.
Jackie Joyner-Kersee, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I've never met a superstar athlete, and particularly one that has reached the levels of glory that you have. And I am actually thought quite a bit about what would be my first question that I would ask somebody that's won. How many gold medals have you won?
So I won 3 gold medals, 1 silver, and 2 bronze, 6 Olympic medals in total.
The first time you crossed the finish line and it was clear that you had won a gold medal, what did that feel like?
You know, before I even got to my second Olympic Games, my first Olympic Games was a real learning experience. I was picked to win the gold and had never dealt with injury. And mentally, I just wasn't strong enough. Physically, I had the ability to win a gold medal. And so I left my first Olympic Games in Los Angeles, California in 1984. That if God blessed me to make another Olympic team, that I wanted to be the toughest athlete out there mentally. And having an opportunity to make my second Olympic team in 1988 and winning my first Olympic gold medal, it was a dream come true, not only for me, but I thought about the people who helped me and who believed in me and who saw the potential in me as a 9-year-old and just the tears of joy, being able to stand on the top podium and hear the national anthem and be celebrated by many, but how great it was that I felt we were able to do that. And so it was really one of the unbelievable feelings in the world.
If what you thought of 4 years earlier was that you didn't have the mental toughness, does that mean that you were punishing yourself for the next 4 years? What does mental toughness mean when you're trying to achieve at the highest heights, but you can't just go out and do it tomorrow? You've got to wait 4 years for that to happen.
Right. The mental toughness, it's a process, and you learn through those processes. You learn that in athletics, sometimes you don't believe you should get injured, but it comes with what you do. Asking my body to go through 7 different tasks and not to come up lame or come up injured is not a part of your mental process. But when it's all said and done, things happen. And it's really, how do you become the best? How are you able to block out distractions? How are you able to pull in the things that you need to do to be successful? So it wasn't that I was punishing myself. It was motivation to not to ever feel that way, because my coaches, my physical therapists, and the people I work with believed in me more than I believed in myself. So,
really?
Yes, because they told me I could do it, but every time I'm looking down at my left hamstring leg, I'm injured. You know, my leg is heavily bandaged. Something must be wrong. So in my mind, I'm going through this process of not thinking like a champion, looking for every excuse not to get the job done instead of reversing that, thinking like a champion, willing to pull every muscle in my body to get the job done. And so that's where I realized mentally it wasn't tough. You know, it wasn't that I couldn't have won the gold medal, or it's just that I fed myself negative thoughts and I performed like I was thinking.
It shocks me to think about that somebody at your level is like, hey, the mental part of this game is actually a huge part of it. It's what divides somebody from getting a gold. I think of this voice when I go for a jog in the morning, right? I wake up and there's this voice in my head that says, it's kind of cold out, you don't have to go, or it's icy, you might get injured, or like, you ran pretty hard yesterday. And I call it the voice of resistance that I have to overcome. Do you have a voice of resistance?
Oh, yeah, I think we all have a voice of resistance. It's how much do we give in to that voice? And that's where you have the power to change that voice and have that voice of acceptance. Like, oh, I can do this. I will do this. You know, what's the affirmation behind what it is that you're trying to accomplish? And that's what I had to start. First I had to look in the mirror and acknowledge that I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I wasn't going to allow anyone to make excuses for me. So that allowed me to grow and understand that this is just a part of the process, a part of my growth in trying to become, one of the best.
I definitely can empathize with the idea that you have people around you that they're like, hey, that's good enough. Hey, you tried really hard. And if you listen to their kindness, which is what they're trying to do, you won't get where you have to go.
Right. I think kindness is great. I think a pat on the back. But the reality of it is that you can do better. And that don't accept the expectations of what you have for yourself. Don't allow them to be minimized from someone saying, oh, you're doing good. When you know on the inside, you have a lot more to offer. And that's when you have to have that true conversation with yourself. Because if you want mediocrity, then that's what you're going to get. But if you want to be the best, or the standard of excellence is that there is never time for resting. Okay, that was good, but how can I do this better? With the understanding that you'll find balance in there, but just knowing that I could give just a little more.
Did you ever have to worry about getting yourself into a position where you were, I don't have a better word for it, where you hated yourself, or where you didn't, because in order to first get over my voice of resistance, I basically called myself names and, fought myself to get out there. Is that what you're doing, or have you transcended that? Because I'd rather get over my voice of resistance by not yelling at myself.
Right. No, I transcended myself. I never spoke ill on myself. I always believed that I could do it. I always believed that you can do this. I would always say that you can turn a doubter into a believer, but you have to believe. And so for me, it was always inspiring, motivating, uplifting myself, saying, come on, girl, you could do this. Come on, just talking to myself. And it's like, okay, now what was that? What was that? What did you do?
One of the things that I've noticed, I read your biography, a phenomenal book. And that's why I'm reluctant to try and lay out your life story, because it was done so well in that book, and you have a very complicated story. But one of the other things I did was get on YouTube and watch you perform. And then I watched some people talking about you. One of the things I noticed is that you and your brother have a natural tendency to smile all the time, right? You're doing it right now. Yeah. Is that a natural disposition? Have you always been a happy person?
I want to believe we have always been happy people. And for us, it's like a smile doesn't cost anything. The smile is the invitation that I'm open. You can talk to me. I'm approachable, and because sometimes when you at a certain level that people think you're unapproachable, and that's not my personality, and
you gave me a hug the first time we met. I was shocked.
So that's just me. And my brother, he's the same way. And it's and some people always say, oh, and then sometimes some people might take my smile as a weakness or for granted, but I'm a very focused and driven person. And I know that I could turn on like in athletics, I know that I could laugh and joke with you, but when it comes down to performing, okay, all jokes aside, we have to perform. Now afterwards, we're going to go back and we're going to have fun. But that's just a part of who we are, and hopefully it makes people feel that you are. It's okay to come in our space.
I noticed that I was watching you do high jump, and you looked very serious. And actually, as you're describing this, you must have been having this conversation with yourself about every little piece of the movement to be able to launch yourself up in the air.
Yes, high jump is one of those tricky events. Was really tough for me, even though I performed well in the eyes of others, but it was one that I really had to focus on, and not to the point where I would get paralysis by analysis. It's more about how I execute. I know my run. I know I need to stay outside the bar. I know I need to lay over, but not all that going through my mind at one time, because I would visualize. I would see myself doing my run. I see myself doing my takeoff. I would see myself laying out over the bar, but it's a very key event, in the 7-event discipline, I did heptathlon. And
which is what made everybody recognize that you're the greatest athlete of all time, because you can't just be good at one thing.
Right. And so just imagine going through the 7 different disciplines, and it's a roller coaster. On one moment you're on a high because you ran hurdles well. Then all of a sudden the key event and the longest of the 7 events is the high jump. And that's how you score the most points. And I have to be on target. If not, then I'm like, oh, spirits are down, but I still have to stay up because I still have 5 more events I got to complete.
Yeah, constant wave. If you stay on the top of the wave too long, you get exuberant, you're not focused, you stay down in the bottom.
Yes, so you have to find that balance, that, when do I exert my energy? Do I have the butterflies? Do I find myself laughing and joking too much that I allow that energy to escape, instead of allowing that energy to escape through my performance?
It strikes me, I've been visiting the St. Louis Art Museum several times in the last month, and I've really started to be drawn towards masterpieces. Like there's a Water Lilies by Monet, and you can tell that this is a thing that in order for him to have painted that, he had to spend decades getting ready. Your genius, your mastery had to come by the time you were 19 years old. 22 years old, and then your body doesn't allow you to keep going. What is it like to have a master level paintbrush but be contained within our mortal bodies that change and get older?
It comes with the territory. It comes with the growth of understanding that even though the mastery of a painting that takes years, to the beauty of it that comes out. So as a young girl at 9 years of age and not being one of the best runners and not really understanding what the Olympics is all about, having an opportunity to go to the Olympics, and you realize that it's just not about the physical. It's the mental capacity that we spoke of earlier, but still where others might think you're at the pinnacle because the event, making it to the Olympic Games is the pinnacle for an athlete competing in Olympic sports. But you also understand that your body transition, and going through the transition, dealing with injuries. So now as you continue on trying to reach second Olympics or third Olympics, is that the more you become a veteran, the more you realize that it's more quality than quantity. Then you start finding and understanding that some of the things that I didn't know at 22, technique-wise, I don't have to spend a lot more time on that. So now I'm better to do this at an efficiency level, much better than previous years when you had to grind in and grind out and day in and day out. You're still spending a lot more time on it, but it might be more of working on the things you have no control over, the things that might happen that would cause you to lose your focus.
It really is a mastery then.
Yes, it is.
I think that's something that is not natural for the watcher of the event, the person that's not doing hurdles, because what it looks like is they had a natural ability and then they practiced a lot. But you don't, at least I had never really thought about the mental part of this.
No, the mental training and the physical, and the combination of both is that when what you see is what appears to be easy, but it's extremely difficult. So just like a masterpiece, when we say, oh, I can go home and do that. And then when you start like, oh, wow.
You start painting on it.
Right. You're like, wait a minute. I watch some of these home network shows. I'm like, oh, I could do that. Yeah, right. And it's the same way in athletics, because there's been years of training, years of trying to perfect the angle which you need to run, or the drive that I need to get the trajectory to get the height so I can land in the pit at 23 feet, along with the combination of the speed. But you work on that so it becomes a rhythm where the audience see athleticism and see great talent, but you have to work on having that talent look easy. And it's just not you, it's your coach, because your coaches are your eyes. And they are the ones that's telling you what you need to work on so you can perfect it. And it never becomes perfection. You never reach that level. But what you want is consistency. And having the consistency would bring the results that you have been working towards.
So you never reach that level. Like, is that like painful to know that perfection is always elusive? Or like how do you keep going when you know you'll never get there?
Because I think that sometimes you lose sight of saying you got to be perfect. It's not about being perfect. You know, the realization is that you would never be perfect. You know, so there's always room for growth. And that's been my philosophy, to know that as long as there's room for growth, then there's room for me to always be a student of my game, student of what I'm trying to learn from my coaches.
And did getting on Wheaties boxes and the cover of Sports Illustrated, did that cloud you in any way? I mean, I could imagine it would cloud me if all of a sudden I was there. I'd be like, I've arrived. This is all I need to get to.
You know, I don't... the accolades and the accomplishments that, you know, to be on the Wheatie box or to be, you know, on the cover of Sports Illustrated, is that it makes it much difficult because you're a target. And being a target, your focus is that you have to continue to work hard, because you could never have the attitude. For me, it was never having the attitude, oh, I have arrived. Oh, my gosh, if I lived that life or if I trained that way, there's no way I think I could ever continue to reach some of the goals I had set for myself. So for me, I was never satisfied as long as I was still training and trying to compete.
But it has to be so tempting. I mean, that's like the devil sitting there saying, look at all these people. They agree you're doing great. You're doing fine.
I think the temptation comes from not having a grounded foundation, you know, and I think for me, I'm always reminded of my humble beginnings, you know, and to never take anything for granted, and to know that everything that I have achieved, I've earned it, but I earned it with the support of many people. So as long as I'm out there, I always had to be in the best shape of my life, you know. So if Coach saying be here at this time, I'm never going to be running late, because I respect the time of the people who are devoting their time to help me become a much better athlete. So for me, it was never to lose sight of why I'm on the Wheaties or why I'm on the cover of Sports Illustrated, is because we worked so hard. But then as long as I'm going to compete and be in this arena, I have to continue to work hard, because just like someone world record that I wanted, there's someone that wants the world record that I have. So if I'm going to be out there, I better be out there in the best shape of my life, not saying, oh, yeah, I can go lay on the beach today and take a few months off. And
The first time you kind of splashed back into my mind. So as I was a kid, you were like, you know, larger than life. But then as you came out of the headlines, I moved on with my life. But I'm driving from Illinois into St. Louis, and I see a sign for the East St. Louis Jackie Joyner-Kersee Foundation. And my first reaction was, she got out of there. Why the hell would she go back? I don't, that maybe says something terrible about me, but it's actually what I thought. Like, you escaped what to a lot of people looks like hell. Why go back?
You know, the question to me was never, why go back? It was like, why wouldn't I? And the reason it was why wouldn't I, because there are a lot of great people there, and that the environment and the circumstance and shouldn't define the people. And for me, I was able to be exposed to sports, good education, people who cared for me. And in return, I wanted to do the same, because when I was growing up, anyone prominence or anyone that had done something outstanding would never say they were from the community. And I just thought that, oh my gosh, if I make it to the Olympics, I'm gonna tell them I'm from East St. Louis, Illinois. And I didn't quite understand it, and it wasn't until I was doing an interview after one of the Olympic Games, and a reporter asked me that, why would you say you from East St. Louis? Because it can taint your image. I'm like, huh? What do you mean? That's where I'm from. So for me, letting people know where I was from and not being confused with Illinois, East St. Louis being in Illinois versus the east side of St. Louis. I'm like, no, it's in a whole nother state,
Well, when I think of East St. Louis, that would have been something that as a kid you'd hear, that's a dark place. And then if my maps software on my phone routes me through East St. Louis, I become scared because I've been told this is a dark place. It's dangerous. Don't be there. Is that accurate, or is that only part of the picture? How should I think about that?
You know what? I think it's accurate from the standpoint of the image that other people might have, and also accurate from the conversation. Maybe it's more the conversation that people feel for whatever reason that to be threatened. But if you really take the time and come and see that it's really a great place and there's great people. I mean, people would be willing to help you, a stranger, off the street, that you would be just as welcome in East St. Louis as you are, in St. Louis, and
well, so the first time that I've had an experience in East St. Louis was when I came down to your foundation, and I actually used to work with kids that came from similar background in Milwaukee, but for whatever reason in my mind, it didn't translate to East St. Louis. But when the kids start walking into the building, I realized I've made a big mistake because I imagined that my fear of East St. Louis will be manifest in those kids. And they come in as sweet and as excited and as happy as can possibly be. What are those kids facing that work at your that come into your foundation every day?
They're facing, just poverty is kills all communities. But we have the ability to embrace them and to bring them into what I call a safe environment, where not only are we able to nurture them through feeding them, but then also nurture them and helping them to become stronger individuals through the education, through our after-school program, through my Winning in Life curriculum, teaching them to be leaders beyond the field of athletics, but just being great human beings that want to do great things. But we're just a small portion of that because having a strong school system, some might go home and they might not have a strong family background.
So just I kind of jumped a little bit ahead. You have a foundation that is for students after school, and it is athletics and homework assistance, and you were talking about your leadership curriculum. So the kids get done with school and they may have several hours where they would not see a parent if they went home, maybe all the way into the night. So they come here, they get a snack or sometimes a meal,
yes,
and then they get their studies done. And then there's all kinds of sports facilities. And you, along with other partners, help get that program going. Yes.
So this year we celebrate 20 years of the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center. Our gala would be in October to, bring it all together. But March would mark 20 years of the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center being open. And so what we've been able to do is we do door-to-door transportation. We pick our students up from school, bring them to the center. They come in, get a snack, get a warm meal, Then they do the enrichment. And enrichment is around some need homework help. We have a reading specialist. Want to make sure that each and every one of our kids can read at grade level, try to see where they are. Some might do some tutorial help. We have our STEM lab working with them with math. We also have our design and build. Some of our students were working with one of our other partners building a trophy case, and also have the fitness a part of that. And so we use sports as a hook to get them in the door. But we know that they need more than just how to shoot a basketball, or how to run fast. That to me is very important that they are able to read and they can comprehend what they're reading. How can we help prepare them for their journey of life? And that's where winning in life comes in. The curriculum built around 14 different principles. What do critical thinking look like for a 6-year-old versus a 17-year-old? Being able to walk in their shoes where they are today, but then also being able to have a founder like Jackie Joyner-Kersee who grew up in this area, not looking at Jackie Joyner at that time, the Olympic champion, or Jackie Joyner-Kersee, but Jackie Joyner, when she was 9 years old, that went to some of the same schools and was taught by some of the same individuals. What goal setting did she applied to setting her goals, and that's why I'm back in that community.
Well, it's like you found a path towards something else, and instead of just being like, well, see if you can find it, you've actually gone back there and been like, why don't we put signposts here, and why don't we say, hey, you're going to hit these types of crossroads. This is how I handled it, which is a hell of a help, right? Then somebody doesn't have to discover that whole path on their own. Right.
But then it's also important for me for them to discover their own path, because sometimes the road least travel or the road that you travel is the most resistant, and sometimes the help is right there. And I know as a young person, my father's like, okay, I want you to go to UCLA. I want you to do that. I'm like, oh. Only because he wanted me to go, not knowing that's what's good for me. But kids or young people going to be young people, because we deal in an age where social media, where when I was coming up, I didn't have to deal with social media. I didn't have to deal with someone, just some of the derogatory things that happen with bullying and all of those things. Dealt with it, but not in the same
context. I mean,
exactly.
You at the end of the day, you can go home, and if your dad doesn't want somebody to come up to the front door or take a phone call, it's not coming through.
Exactly.
Right.
Right. So,
a few weeks ago, my wife and I discovered that we're pregnant. And it was a very exciting moment.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And she actually said something to me that it was shocking, because she said, okay, all the tests came back. And I was like, tell me what I want to know. And she goes, it's a baby girl. And I've been thinking about this pretty deeply for the last few weeks. It may sound surprising, but in my 38 years, I had never imagined what it would be like to be the father of a daughter. I really only thought about existence as I knew it. What are my hero's stories? What are the challenges I went through? And terrified is probably too strong a word, but really startled by the fact that now I have to view the world through the eyes of a little girl. And I'm wondering, I'm almost emotional here. Like, I since I have you here, I actually would love to know what's different about a little girl than a little boy.
I think that I think both little girl, little boy. Fathers always seem to like they want the boy, but just the loving nature of. I think you get it from both, but I think when I think of my time of growing up, how girls didn't have the same opportunities, and how we wanted to do sports, but there wasn't a pathway to sports. Like it was just for boys. But now it's almost if the world is seeing that young girls who have become women, that we have so much to offer. And I think in bringing that young girl, she's going to be a daddy's little girl, because all girls, gravitate to their daddies. And, moms, we there because we are always nurturing and all of that. But, but I just think that what a blessing for you all. And we're very, very excited. When you think about the coaches that approached you and were helpful to you, you were a girl growing up in an environment where there hadn't been very many girls in athletics. What did they do right? What did they do to be able to get you on this path? Yeah, I wouldn't say Coach Nino Fenoy, who is my age group coach, who still is a part of my life today, who's the winningest track coach, in East St. Louis history. He's still there, but it was that they always made us feel like we belong without us even knowing that we didn't belong. So, and it was always a pathway, even when we had the combination of both boys and girls, and the coaches decided that they were just going to no longer coach girls. Coach Fenoy was the one that stepped up and said, no, I will coach girls, because there is a place for them too to participate. So, but when you're younger, you don't realize the impact of that, because had they just said no, because they didn't have the funding, but it was okay, we just going to help fund the boys. Girls just won't be doing this anymore. And they found a way, they would pack us all up in the vans, their own personal vans. They would give up their weekends, we would have parents.
You were going long ways away to get to track.
Yes, and it was fun for us because we're like, that's most we're going to get out of town. We're going to Pico, Kansas, Lincoln, Nebraska.
But that's an adult that's giving up their weekend and
yes.
they're driving and they're responsible, and it's not like it's fun. They're not going to the bar at night. They're managing
yes.
and keeping children alive.
And that's why, you don't realize role models are right before your eyes, because what they were able to teach me, as well as a lot of us, is what we came back and gave back. So as a young person and as an adult, you don't think that they're watching you. They are. And what you're saying to them, it becomes a part of their DNA. So then as you transition in life, you only regurgitate what you've been taught or what you learned from someone. So those coaches and parents are role models. So if you behave in a way that's not becoming, then that child will eventually behave the same way.
Yeah, they don't have another way to construct it.
No, because this is someone I look up to. You're my coach, So I think that what Coach Fenoy was able to do is surround us with strong women and just strong leaders that we didn't even know was leaders. If he couldn't go, then one of the other coaches was going. My teammate, Deborah Thurston, and I, we made it to the Junior Olympic Championship. We had to go to Yakima, Washington.
That's a long way from East St. Louis.
And, I had never flown before. And then my ears were killing me and I was crying. And it was like, it was really first time nationals. And I ended up winning a national championship, run my lifetime best in the 800 meters. And it was like, wow, okay, I want to do this pentathlon.
What would you have been if you had not, if somebody hadn't said, like, grab this person and point him in the direction of athletics? Was that just who you were destined to be?
I believe so, but I thought I would be a teacher. I always wanted to teach, because I came through a community center, and the librarian at that time taught me how to check out books, how to do book reports, and any young people out there listening, you guys Google everything. But anyway, And so I always saw myself working with seniors, the Meals on Wheels program, doing everything was around teaching, and learning about the anatomy through my anatomy class with Miss Goss, and so it was always just learning and then being able to share what I had learned.
It's interesting because now you are a teacher, you are sharing what you learned, but on a way bigger scale than just running a third grade class. I mean, they're different things. One is the role model that's there in the room, and the other one is trying to create this curriculum and this program. Is this what you spend most of your time on? Is this curriculum? I mean, I know that you're involved in like getting internet to kids. Like, how are you spending your time now?
So I spend the majority of my time. I'm the CEO of our foundation, but we really have a great team, and I think what makes my job easy is that the team that I have, I look good because my team is strong, and that a lot of the things I can't focus on, but I might give direction or talk about my vision, that they help bring that vision to reality. And I'm very appreciative of that, which allows me to be able to go and do my speaking or make appearances because of the other hat that I've worn for many years. But then also being able to do those other events, bring recognition, not so much recognition, bring awareness about my community work that other people might not be aware of. So having a director over the Winning in Life makes a huge difference in trying to push that forward. Having a COO to help run the operation of the foundation makes a big difference in allowing us to be able to service the families and the work that I believe that would outlive all of us, but having a strong foundation to do that. So for me, that I am a taskmaster driven, expectations are extremely high because I know no other way. There's no shortcut. One thing that I truly believe in, hard work and commitment. And I believe that when you work hard, and you might not see the results right away, but when those results start to come in, you're going to have a greater appreciation for it versus it just happened overnight. So the struggles and all the things that you go through and understanding people and why we all must pull together to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think this goes along with the mastery of you make it look easy when you're at that superstar athlete level, but it actually is a whole lot of time where you didn't know for sure you were going to get to that pinnacle stage. You just said, I know that the best step I can take is the one that gets me further along the path.
Right. And with the understanding that consistency is very important to me in everything that I do, and that eventually you will have a breakthrough. But if you're a person that runs late all the time, then you're going to run late for that very important meeting because you have already programmed yourself to do that. And you're going to miss out on an opportunity that you didn't even know that opportunity existed. So, and it's the same way like with training, and you're coming late all the time. Then when the big meet come, then all of a sudden they telling you, oh, you missed your call time. I.e. happened to one of the guys at the Olympic Games in boxing.
Wow.
And
you've done all this work, and that one habit that you just didn't pay attention to
because you lose sight of you listening to your own clippings that you're so great. And sometimes we get a pass. And earlier when we were talking about just patting people on the back saying, no, if you're not hard on that individual in crunch time, and then when they fall short, it's because you have given them a pass saying they did good. Oh, you did good. Now, when it's time to really show up, they fall apart.
You said something in an interview that struck me, and it was your husband is also your coach, or was your coach, and he was notoriously a very difficult person to work with. But you said with your Jackie Joyner-Kersee smile, I love it that he yells at me. I love it. You wouldn't accept just anybody yelling at you. Why was him yelling at you something that was okay or something you loved? Because
I think sometimes the yelling is misconstrued, and his yelling is more motivational. Is that he knows that I could do X, Y, Z. So it was just like I'm talking to my niece one time, and she's young. She only know Uncle Bobby as fuzzy loving, and they go, Auntie, why is he yelling at you? Like, he's not yelling, really. He's telling me at the 600 meter mark, I need to be at this time. So he's calling out the times. He's telling me to move, when I have to move, because that's the only voice of all the thousands of people there I can tune in and I can hear his voice. Because I know what we have trained. And I know sometimes that I'm a little hard-headed, but I need that type of motivation.
He found a way to give you signal through the noise, and for everybody else, it sounded like noise.
Exactly.
I have a similar experience. My mentor is a 99-year-old man that grew up as an orphan, and he's a brilliant man. And when everybody meets him, they love him. They're like, he's so sweet, he's so kind. But when it's just me and him, like, it's like relentless, you know, like it's and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right.
But if somebody watched the two of us interacting, they would think, why do you do this? Like, why do you subject yourself to it? And I'm like, because there's no one else that will do this for me. And if I thought for 1 second that he did not have my best intention, then it would be different.
Exactly. And that he's pulling the best out of you. And that's what others, they don't see, is that this is the way to pull the best out of me. Because I know you have much more to give. Because if I let you continue to go, then when you run up with someone of equal talent, then they're going to beat you. And then I'm going to feel like I failed at my job making sure that you were ready. So I'm not going to tell you all the things you want to hear. I'm going to tell you the things that you need to hear so we can get it done. And that's how it is, because I'd rather you be crying with me than all of a sudden you fall short, then the whole public see you crying.
Yeah. I mean, it's the concept of having a partner that's a worthy adversary.
Yes.
Because, I mean, most people that you would have encountered would not have been a worthy adversary to you.
No, because if you... See, I come from that type of background. Coach Fenoy was like that. And the great thing, Coach Fenoy, he said to me when I got ready to leave high school, is that it's time for you to go learn from someone else. And that was, at the time, you don't understand it, but now going through the transition of leaving high school, going to college, and then seeing other student athletes that still was working with their high school coach, that they wouldn't let them go when they got to college.
So they couldn't transcend.
Couldn't transcend and wasn't able to learn. And then you wonder, and it's like you are really stopping them from growing. So Coach Fenoy always showed he had my best interest. He said, no, I want you to go. I can only teach you so much at the high school level. Collegiate level, that's a whole nother level. The Olympic level, that's a whole nother level. Go and learn. Come back and share.
And you even got to the college level and found there were coaches that didn't care about you.
Oh, yes. Because you get to the college level and it's about winning, Some don't even recognize your talent. That's one thing about when you're in a pool of talent to people all around. And I'm a multi-eventer. I'm a basketball player. I'm long jumping. And my first year at school was just terrible to me. Everybody else, it was a great year. But for me, I was unhappy, but
you're far away. You're playing basketball.
Far away, and diagnosed as an asthmatic, and lose my mom. All kind of things were happening, but I never lost sight of what that picture should look like.
What that picture should look like?
Yes.
What do you mean?
So I always had an image of how completed the picture would look. I always used, like pieces of the puzzle. And there were always empty spots that I was missing. So that taught me to journal, what are the things.
Oh, I'm totally in on journaling, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So journaling, and then I started realizing what it is what I'm not doing. Not blaming everybody else. Jackie, what are you not doing? Reading through it, understanding like it was athletics or, like just because I wasn't the best hurdler because I didn't run hurdles in high school. I only ran them during the summer, and couldn't 5-step. I mean, I was 5-step. It was supposed to be 3 steps. When I mastered the 3 steps, like, oh, that's so easy. But it took a while.
But it had to click. Yeah, you had to go through that long period where it was all pain.
Yes.
And then one day it comes together.
Right.
So this picture that you have, I've been talking lately about this concept of the daemon. So it's Daemon. Mm-hmm. And it's something that philosophers from all the way back to Aristotle to Nietzsche say, I have a voice that's in my mind and only I can hear it, and I can't always hear it. Mm-hmm. It sounds really similar to that I have a picture. Yes. When you say I have a picture, I don't have one, but I have a voice that I hear. But do you think those are the same things?
I do, because I see how my vision of, I saw the community center.
You did?
Yes. And
that's, so for people to have context, where that is like you hewed it out of the wilderness.
yes,
There was nothing there.
No.
It was not obvious.
right.
Wow.
So, and like I saw myself standing on the podium, but you could see yourself, see these pictures, but what you can't lose sight of is the work that goes into it to bringing it to reality. So the Olympics is my team of people. The community center is a team of people. And sometimes you might think you have the right people on your team. And then you find out, no, I do not, because they don't fit in. Because as a part of that picture, frustration comes. But do I find myself being drained, withdrawn? I shouldn't have to change my emotions to fit into the picture that I have already painted for myself. The frustration has gone through the strokes, and I know this, I know that. But that's the difference I see in building a community center versus the athletics.
Well, it's such a difference, because in track and field, you have competitors, but you can't impact how they perform.
Right.
You can only impact how you perform. So it is 100% an individual sport. But there is that element of somebody running hard next to you. You get into a group setting and you still only can control your effort, but you're choosing other people to be around. Like, it's not as simple as I just go out there and run my race or jump my jumps.
Right, but the philosophy doesn't change. I can only focus on the things that I can control and not worry about the things I can't. The one thing I do know is that I shouldn't be on an emotional roller coaster dealing with managing people. Either you fit or you don't. And you can't be afraid to let them go. In athletics, a coach can't be afraid. You might be the superstar, but you're causing a whole lot of problems. I got to let you go. And once the coach let the superstar go, then everybody else going to shape up too. But I can't have a team where I have to worry about managing people emotions.
Interesting.
And because there's no way as a team we're going to win, because that becomes contagious. And if that becomes contagious within it, then all of a sudden my picture is starting to disintegrate. And like, no. I don't want that.
So you've had to deal with that.
Yes, you have to deal with that.
And how are you at telling somebody you're not in this picture?
I think I'm very good at it because I only know, for me, I'm going to be honest with you. And the one thing about me is that there is no in between. I'm going to either tell you, either you're going to like it or you're not going to like it. But that's the way I'm honest with you, because that's how, when they, you're just not cutting it. And I think sometimes we set our young people up for failure when we're not honest with them. It's not that you're trying to, you uplift them, but to give every child a certificate and make them feel like they're doing okay when they're not. These are some of the things that you need to work on. I need you to work on this. Then I see you improving. I'm going to give you something that's saying, I see you improving. I'm not just going to give you one and say, because you participated. And the whole time you just sat over there and participated just by clapping. But if that's what you want to do, I have no problem with that, because there are team managers and there are people that do those things. But I need for you to understand that if you really want to be in the mix, these are some of the things that you need to work on. Now you go and you work on those and you come back. Because I was that kid. I finished last in my first race.
Really?
Yes. And they told me, okay, so I came up with, don't know where I got this from. If I can improve 1/10 of a second if I was running 1/2 of an inch, that meant the work that I'm doing is paying off. And I learned that 4 through 9th or 4 through 8th was always on the grass. And you got all different color ribbons. And 1, 2, 3 was always on the podium. And I had to say, now how do I get in on the podium? So you learn how to get in the mix. Same way. It's like you go in for a job interview, you get rejected. Okay, now how do I deal with this? What is it that I need to work on?
One of the hardest things for me about corporate America was that I would interview people for a position that I had open. If I didn't give it to them, I am not allowed to tell them why. Because we live in this litigious society. We live in an environment where people are like, don't hurt their feelings. You can't do it. But it is killing us because I saw candidates that I was like, you have all these talents, you have all these skills, but these are the things that are a gap in your career or in where you're at. And if you go out and find a way to fill that gap, you'll be unstoppable.
Right.
But we've stripped in so much of society, we've stripped out the ability to tell people real feedback. And I don't think it's helping us any.
I don't think it's helping us any because I think sometimes we get caught up into, we lose sight of, oh, this person on paper, they look, wow, amazing, talented, but then when it comes for the interpersonal things, it's like, whoa. Now, I got a group of people I'm going to work with. Now, how am I going to pull this person in? This person might not be a great fit. They can interview well, but it's always something in that interview.
You look back on it and you're like, notice. I knew it. I just didn't listen to myself.
Exactly, because you go against your gut. Because there's always something that person that was interviewing, they would come back to it and in the back of your mind, but the majority of everybody, oh, they wonderful, there's this, but you're like, and then it surfaced. Once you bring the person in, now it's like, okay, now how do I deal with it?
How do I get out of this problem now that because I signed my name on the dotted line by saying, yeah, this is acceptable.
Right.
I completely agree with this and see that in so many aspects of life, not just in employment and not just athletics, we don't tell people what the nature of reality is. Like we would rather either get along with them or have them like us than we would be to be honest.
Right. And I think, and that's tough though, because it's one thing to be likable, but I want you to like me because you're honest with me. I know that if I come to you, you're going to be honest with me. And it might hurt my feelings at the time, but at least I know you care about me enough to tell me, because I'd rather you tell me than someone else who really don't
there's
care
two people that'll tell you what they really think. The people that love you and the people that hate you.
Right.
And the people that hate you will tell you in vicious ways.
You're right.
So you want to be the type of person that tells other people, hey, this is what I'm seeing and I'm doing it out of love. Even though I know that I'm risking the fact that you might not like me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, even like with, see a lot of, like young people, right? And they feel like they have no patience. They want this job. They want this amount of money. And they don't realize that I don't care what your skill level is. You could work your way up, But if you want that kind of money, then, go and start your own business. Do your own thing.
Yeah, if you have that picture, then it's you got to think of it. You got to stand back and look at how does this fit into things to be the bigger picture.
Yes.
So you and your brother are both gold medal athletes. Your brother is an astounding talent. And you were running in women's events and he was running in men's events. Now this is getting changed over. People that were men are now running in women's events. I imagine you have a nuanced perspective about this. What do you think about how this is shaping up in society? You know what?
We live in a society now where, well, first of all, I think if you're born a male, then you should compete as a male, and we know as the ages start, their development and where younger boys who might be competing with girls at a younger age it's tough. And, you've seen it a lot in the sports. I think I just read something where they were suing somebody.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And at first I paid attention to it and then I was like, this is chaos. I don't know how to pay attention to it. But when I look at it, I think a man has more muscle. He's got more bone density. If he had an opportunity to get out ahead and then says, I want to go compete over here, you're not comparing the same thing.
No. And that's why they were really looking into it and trying to look at these. I mean, chromosomes or whatever, but there is somewhat of it would be a disadvantage.
And one of the thoughts that I had about why you have a unique perspective is you were competing at the top levels. You were crushing it. And then somebody threw out a single accusation that you were using drugs and it started to corrode away. And so you know what it is to be competing at your highest levels and having people throw noise into that.
Right.
What did that teach you about the world when that happened?
You know what? It reminded me of focus on the things I can control and not worry about the things I can't, because I tell myself that. But the reality of it is because if you perform at a high level, then it's like something's, wrong. Not how you got there, So for me, it was like disappointing, and was it gamemanship? Because sometimes, all of a sudden females were getting attention, and with that kind of attention, then all of a sudden there's endorsements and things. But if you can throw something out there to make people think twice. So, there was a whole lot of reasoning, nothing to back it up and it's just unfortunate because I think back then when we were competing, I wish our federation or someone just would have came forward and said, but that wasn't going to happen. So
because they weren't willing to take a stand, they weren't willing to go out and put their name on the line.
No, I just think that there wasn't an avenue for it. Because back then people can just throw things out. Now you throw things out, you better be able to back up what you're saying. And the transitions of women just excelling and doing well. It was like you don't want that. So then all of a sudden something must be wrong. Oh, they got to be taking drugs. They got to be, And
I think that is the natural human tendency when somebody else is achieving, even if they're achieving in a different area than you think, well, they're not that good.
Right.
But, because if I were in their position, I would be succeeding. So they must be cheating.
Right.
And I think that brings up the fragility of human nature, because you can be achieving as an individual, but in society, your reputation
is everything, and you don't want nobody to, I mean, I remember we were in high school and they were like, we're like, what are they talking about? Because we dominated, and.
Oh, you got accusations all the way back then?
Oh, yeah, they were like, like they doing something. They're like, we didn't even know what they were talking about. So that's why.
Wait, is there something we could be doing? I didn't know.
No, but it was just the idea that we were good, and then people would say things, and like what did we had no idea what people were saying, So
it's just soul crushing, though.
It's soul crushing, but that's another way. The mental game to get you off. I take everything in from the standpoint of my husband would always remind me that you prepare to be in the best shape. If someone gonna beat you, don't let them beat you on technicality. So put yourself in a position where you've done the work. Block out the noise, because it's the noise that would distract you from getting the job done. So if you are expected to win, they expecting you to win. They're not expecting someone else. But if they can distract you and that's someone else, that's headline news.
Yeah.
So don't let the things that you can't control consume you to the point that you can't perform to the best of your ability. And that's what happens, is that people, throw things out there to see if it's going to stick, And
the only ones that get to the top and stay there are the ones that figure out how not to let it harm you.
Right. And, and it's easy to say and it's difficult to do because, no one wants their reputation tarnished. You work so hard and someone throws out an accusation which has no validity to it at all. But that it goes back to the consistency of what I want to do and just keep going. That's why, I could smile and say,
It's why I think you're foundation is so interesting, because at first blush you'd be like, oh, somebody has a foundation, their name gets to live on, like, look at the accolades that person gets. But then you come to realize, no, Jackie Joyner-Kersee is signing her name on everything here. And so how the public views that, what we do for these students, how effective it all is, that will be your legacy. It's not like handing out a pair of shoes and if somebody's like, I didn't like the pumps this year, that's not that.
Exactly. And that's what, is very, for me, it's rewarding, but I also know that there's a downside to that. And that's why it's so important for the people who work for the organization understand, that, okay, you guys can easily walk away. But once something happens, they talking about Jackie Joyner-Kersee.
Yeah.
I can't walk away.
Right.
Everything I built is built around my reputation. So we have to be on top of, that's why the expectation and the standard of excellence is always high, where I can't afford to have someone just, blase, we're not going to do this. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So if your expectation and your standard of excellence can't reach our level of expectation, then this is not the place for you, because there's consequences. When you don't do what you're supposed to do, you don't suffer. My organization suffer and I suffer.
Right.
So when I started talking to them about, I'm like, I'm not tooting my horn. I'm telling you, this is my life.
Right.
So
I think most people don't have to sign on the dotted line in such a grand way, but everybody is signing on the dotted line with the work that they put in. I mean, the reason that you're able to demand that level of commitment and excellence from people is because there's no possible way you got to where you arrived at without that level of excellence.
Exactly.
And it's one thing to be a tyrannical boss that expects their employees to achieve and be excellent when they're falling down. It's like the parent that tries to have athletic greatness through the child, despite the fact that they did not have the discipline. You're not in that position. You're saying, I did achieve excellence. We're trying to teach excellence, and therefore everyone that works for me must meet that level. And of course, there are gonna be people that fall short.
Right. But it's okay though, because how can we help elevate you? How can we help work around your strength? But I need for you to understand that you have weaknesses. That's not to say you're not a good team player. It's just like with me. I know that in order for me to be great in the heptathlon, it wasn't the events I love doing. It was the events that was going to give me problems.
The 800 meters.
800 meters, the high jump, the javelin. So I had to work on my weaker events. So everybody loved doing what they love doing. Okay. No, that's not what I see. I see your weaknesses is over here. I want you, because when we come up against competition, I want to know that you're ready.
Yeah, as you're saying this, what I'm thinking is like, damn it, she's right. And now I have to work on the parts that are weak, because I want to stay at the areas that I'm good at, right? Like,
right.
Let's just keep dancing on the parts that I'm really good at. No. But that's not what will hold you back.
Right. And that's where... And athletics taught me that. So as a team, I'm like, yeah, like there's some things I don't want to do, right? But no, I need to go do that. Because where I'm uncomfortable, I need to become comfortable. Might not want to go here, but I need to go do that. Because going over here going to allow me to meet someone that can help the work that I'm doing in the community.
Do you still have skills that you're working on? Things that this is my weak area?
I think sometimes it's not that weak. I also have to recognize that saying no is hard, and I think also recognizing that maybe you're not a good fit,
Yeah, it sounds like that's an area where you're grappling, right? Because it sounds like that's the thing you're thinking about.
Yes, because I think in order for us to be great, you never reach greatness, but you're always striving for greatness. And though if you're always striving for greatness, then you got to continue to work. You know, and I want you to be able to relax and enjoy, some small successes around the way, but understand that there's still more work we need to do.
What does relaxation look like for you?
Oh, just being at home. Being
out of the limelight.
Yes, because I think I don't take myself too seriously in a way that if I go to a restaurant, I don't mind waiting in line. I don't have to, I have some friends be like, well, we're going to tell. I'm like, no, don't do that. I want to wait too, because I think that's so important for my personal growth, is that everything that I have achieved, I've earned it. It didn't come easy. So now, because I sit on a pedestal for some people, I'm going to treat you. No. I want you to treat me like you would treat that person. I'm going to show you respect. You show me respect. If I'm with a group of people, I don't want you to reach across them to get to me. So I think that, I think there's a lot of things, and then I have to learn to, back off sometime.
I was talking with a friend of mine last night, Keaton Kruger, and he brought up a point I'd not really thought of. One of the things that separates animals from humans is that humans know they're going to die, right? The animals, they don't know that. And so there's a sense of whether it's urgency or I don't know. But do you think about that? Do you think about your own mortality and how long you have here to do work and things?
That's
a really heavy question.
It is, I have, and it's not something I think about often. I know early on I did. I was like, I want to live past 37, because that's when my mom died. And
your mom was only 37 when she died?
Yes.
I did not realize. So your biography, I highly recommend. It is a fantastic read. It's a very clear, simple read. I had no idea your mother was 38. She must have been just a baby when she had you. Yes.
So in my mind, I kept thinking, Lord, please let me live. Now I have lived past that, but I think also it's one thing they say, the older you become, things you didn't think about, you think about. Mm-hmm. So, and there is an urgency in a way, because I remember when I would compete, people always ask, what's your legacy? And I don't know.
I'm just trying to run.
Right.
I'm just trying to jump.
But I think about the work that I'm doing in the community and really trying to have a place that I know would outlive me. But I just don't want it to outlive me. I want it to embody the spirit and the soul. So whoever come through those doors will always feel that and know that.
Even if they don't know your story, they know the core, the meaning of what you've been doing.
Yes, because it took a while where, for me, like we always talk about over there, because sometimes I'd be like, I don't want my pictures up. But I didn't realize not having pictures up versus having pictures up is a part of history. Because it's a generation that never seen me competed. Mm-hmm. And then when they see those pictures, they are inquisitive and they're, we had this art guy to do, he worked his magic, he had the blank canvas and I'm sitting there, and matter of fact, it was at the Museo Awards and they did this painting. And in the end, he revealed all his work. So I have the painting sitting, is in my center. So the kids that come through from Head Start and they go, Miss Jackie. And then so they're like, Miss Jackie, you made a mess. Not knowing that that's a part of the work.
Oh.
So when you'll
have to send me a photo. I'll put that on here.
Yeah. So when you but in the eyes of a kid, because it's all paint, hand, that he.
I've seen it.
But
yeah.
in the kids' eyes, Miss Jackie, it's a
They don't understand it.
No, but it's just.
Well, that's the amazing thing about art, right? It
Yes.
can transcend. It can cause people to stop, right? You could write
Causing
1,000 signs.
Right. Provoke interest, get them to thinking, and now, so we have pictures up, so they go by and they see all kind of, just, it's, so, another teachable learning tool that I have sometimes to get out of my own way, where I'm like, okay, shy in a way, but not, but I think this is teaching. So that's why I've been on this, supposed to be doing this children's book. I've been talking about it. Ran to somebody in Los Angeles a month ago, and the guy's like, no, Jackie, when you doing it? So I've been keeping my notes, but I gotta, again, set the goal, get it done.
Yeah. I'm struck by when you think about art or that foundation, and you're saying, I want it to live on beyond me. It's that it needs to become a symbol.
Yes.
And the hardest part about a symbol, I would think for an artist, I know, so I go out and give talks all over the country, and I am only just now beginning to realize I don't need to tell the audience the final punchline. I create a framework under which they get to write themselves into it. And then by doing that, by giving up that I have full control, then it can live beyond me. And that's what it sounds like you're trying to do with your foundation.
Yes, definitely.
But it's got to be a humbling experience, because you're like, no, I want it to be this way, fit into my symbol in this way.
Right. It is very humbling. Is very, but it's good though, because I have a lot of, great people. I really do. And I love the fact how, not knowing I'm motivating them, but I'm motivating them because they're doing the work.
Yeah.
And you see the results. And that's why when you have this team, you have a great team, and you don't want that negativity to really intervene,
Keep the symbol from being built.
Exactly.
So before we started, I had you put on a VR headset. I want to talk about that a little bit. What did you think of that? How was that experience?
The VR headset, virtual reality, great experience. I think that.
What did you think? So you put this thing on, you're transported to a world. Tell me about that.
Right. I put the,
The goggles?
The goggles on, and all of a sudden, I'm in a cabin, and I'm seeing things around me, but I'm also able to pick up things and toss things, but then I also realize that there's an imbalance somewhere, because I'm trying to realize when he's saying grip with the middle finger, and then, do different things, so I could be able to pick up a cube, be able to pick up the ping pong paddle, be able to hit the ball, be able to pick up the airplane. That it was just unreal. For real.
Well, it's almost like saying, let's talk about a dream you had, right? Where you're like, and then I was in this room, and it was a cabin, and it was like, it was snowing.
Right.
And yet we could go back in there and have the exact same one again. So you picked it up remarkably quickly. Right? I show this thing to all kinds of people, and you had the dexterity, but it's funny to watch somebody do it, because they paw at the air, and they're kind of wandering around. You could imagine a situation where somebody puts a camera in the center of the Olympic track, right? And they are walking around as Jackie Joyner-Kersee. Everywhere they look they see the crowd, they can hear the noise, it's yelling. What is the difference between being there like you have been and being there in a virtual reality headset?
The only difference would be the physical, but in all honesty, you could be there in the same excitement.
You think so?
I really do, because even when you just said, like you're in your cabinet, you're in your home, you're going out for the run, You're getting ready to go in, the training, the sweat, you got snow out there. You got to run through the snow but it gets you motivated to want to get up and do the things that you need to get done.
Right.
And just think about it in a child's world, play. Yes, we want to play all the time, but just imagine, you're in a quiet setting, then all of a sudden you taking that exam, you see you acing it. And it's like, I'm ready, knowing that you have done all the work too. But I thought it was.
I think it's going to change the nature of what it is to be human, because I don't think we've ever had a way for a person to have the experience of being Jackie Joyner-Kersee without all of the work and the leverage to do it. Like
that, what? When you say that, I think about even like we were talking about, a lot of these kids never seen me compete, right? But just imagine, you're on there running and they trying to outrun you, and and to see the technique of the different events, learn the hurdles, be able to long jump, and just see your body going through this. I'm literally like, not only when you look at the virtual reality, it could be a training tool. A lot of these kids now go on YouTube and they watch and study. They think that's their coach. But now to be able to have something where you can actually train your body to go through it, or, if you're not able to, that it's really.
Yeah,
that's what you got is high tech, though. It really clear, you can see. I'm gonna have to.
What do you think that thing costs?
I thought it cost a lot of money. How much?
Take a guess.
I was saying almost $1,500.
$400.
What?
And that thing is only going to come down because the hardware will just be.
Where can you get it from? Where you get it from?
That one was Oculus, so Facebook makes that one. Google makes another one. I think that.
But this was really good. But it was real great quality, though.
And it's going to just keep getting better. And I am certain that that's going to look like the Atari, that you come in and is like someday that. Right. But I think the nature of that technology will advance so far that I think it will be as important or more important than when we invented the internet. Right? Like that you're like, how important could it be? And then all of a sudden you're like, well, there's Wikipedia and YouTube and everything in between. So I was very interested to hear your thoughts on it. And I have to say, out of all the people I've shown this to, you've had the most open and interested and excited about it. A lot of people are afraid when they see it. They take it off and they say like, wait a second, I was just in the mountains and now I'm here. In the studio. It's a weird feeling. It
is. It's a weird feeling, but I think we are curious by nature.
You are curious by nature. You.
But your mind is like, okay, I was determined to master that thing. Like I'm gonna get.
Yeah, you did, and you did.
And so, but then you go back to the basics because sometimes it's something you're missing. And so all I kept doing was reading. It said the middle finger grip, trigger, then hold, and once you follow direction, it was able to.
So you would recommend other people try it if they get the chance? Go out and see that?
Yes.
So we're going to wrap up, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to let people know how can they help your work do the things that you're doing. And I'll say from the beginning, that's a beacon of light that I was completely bowled over by. So I want to see it be successful. What can people do to make it more successful?
I would encourage people to come by and visit us. And we have our website, jjkfoundation.org. But I think once you come through and set up with my assistant, Brittany Smith Holden, and, I could be available to give you a tour, and be able to see some of the young people and see some of the things that we're doing and support some of our events, But I think I love to get people to come over there because I think once they come over and they see the center and see what we're doing, then it makes sense, versus, okay, that's over in East St. Louis, Yeah,
I had planned to go see it for a long time, but then when we finally did it, you're like, oh my God, like look at how sophisticated and well built this is. And then the moment you watch kids walk in, you realize this is putting good energy into the world. This is making it so children that can go out and make something great happen are going to be more likely to do it because this thing is here.
And that's, that's one of the, the blessings of having the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center. And it's an investment in the young people today. You might not see an instant return, but you will see a return on that investment.
And people, I mean, it's so difficult because people are like, well, show me the data. I want to be data driven. And it's like, how do you do data driven when what you've done is you've taken one kid whose polarity was going in the negative and you flipped it around. And it may be 20 years before that kid comes up with something.
God. Yes.
But I'm 100% there.
Yes. You know what? You couldn't have said it best because we get so caught in, what's the outcome? What's this? But we see the increment of just the changes, small changes of a behavior, a switch. Even just having a better relationship with your mother or your father. So if that's happening, then we know it's happening in school. You're showing up more, and having the strength and the encouragement to speak up, when you know something is wrong. But
this has been nothing short of a deep honor that you were willing to come by and do this. So I'm so grateful, and this has been a wonderful conversation. So thank you so much for coming by.
Appreciate it. Thank you.